You know, I've wondered about this. I must give you another word of warning. I always have to do this. This is a deepie, and I hope it's not boring you. But I've often wondered, when I sit out there and watch movies, monster movies, you know, horror movies, as a man, I'm talking about as part of mankind, just as part of the human race. What is there in us that makes us enjoy the phenomena of fright? Now, if I were to use the word fright to you, and just say fright, now that sounds like a bad word. It sounds like one of those things you don't want. You don't want to be frightened. And yet, we continually and consistently seek the very thing which frightens us. Now, I don't know of any other animal that does this. I doubt very much whether, let us say, if bears are frightened of human beings, Don. Have you ever thought about this? Do you think that bears go and seek out human beings so they can be frightened because they enjoy being frightened? It's just one of those things I've wondered about. Well, it may be someone else, but I'm not so sure. Yeah, that's right. Don just held up a little note there. Don Williamson, our engineer, and he says it's because we're watching someone else being frightened. But not necessarily, because many people will go to a movie that literally frightens them. And yeah, they'll get scared out of their skull. They'll be sit there in the third reel and they're just out of their mind. You know, they're scared. They're hanging out of the seats and oh yeah. And they'll go home and they'll say, that's the greatest movie I ever saw. Holy smokes, and they'll advise everybody to go see it. Now let's go further than that. We seek this fright in many ways. Have you ever considered the concept of an amusement park? That amusement parks are largely based on fright. And so a man who gets on the roller coaster, the thing goes up 400 feet in the air, and it suddenly tilts over and goes plunging down, straight down. It's a frightful experience, really. It's a controlled fall. Then the thing goes whistling through a tunnel and makes a fantastic sharp curve, and you have the sense that any minute now the thing is going to fly out the track, and you're going to go 400 feet down into the cavern. Now, sometimes in the summertime, when you go to an amusement park, you'll see people waiting in long lines to go on these things. Now, what is the lure of that? I don't know of any other animal that does this. I don't know of any animal, let's say, like the mountain goat, who says, watch this, and he leaps down a cliff just to see whether or not he's going to get killed or not. We do it. Let's take the phenomena of skydiving. The phenomenon of skydiving, where people will go up and they will jump out of an airplane because it's a frightful feeling, really. Now, you can say it's an exhilarating feeling, but I'm going to tell you this, that the exhilaration comes from the fright. That a person jumps out, and after all, let's face it, he is falling. He is 3,000 feet in the air, and he is hurtling down through space. There is a question, no matter how safe, quote, you call it, whether that parachute will open. It is not a 100% operation, as any paratrooper will tell you. It is not. Now, I say to you that if it were a 100% operation, people wouldn't go on it. They wouldn't care that much for it. Now, the fright, I'm wondering about this. I'm just contemplating it, and I don't think anyone has seriously ever been able to explain it. It's one of the inexplicable things that make us what we are. And so, everywhere you look, movies are playing. More and more movies play that, in a sense, are frightening. Now, I also have a feeling, too, that this is closely connected with the current LSD craze. Yes, it is. That I've known many people who have been on LSD, and they see, in many ways, often, they see many of the same hallucinations that a man who is under delirium tremens has. Oh, yes. That a man who is having delirium will quite often see fantastic flowers growing in the room, or he'll see great waves of heat coming out of the wall. All of a sudden, he screams, he flips. Well, I think that it depends on your psyche. Some people would consider that a pleasurable experience, and others would be frightened out of their skull. That's one of the reasons why people have varying reactions to LSD. People also have varying reactions to a horror movie. One man's kick, believe me, is another man's fright. And you saw this in Nazi Germany. Oh, sure. Can you imagine one of the famous... I wonder how... Some things are so horrible that mankind will do that people don't even do... they don't write about it or say anything about it. Can you imagine a lady with her house? Just a woman, She's got a house, and she's got a kind of a middle-class house. And she has her lampshades made out of human skin. And she particularly enjoys lampshades that have exotic tattoos on them. I'm not inventing this. You know who that woman was. Now, if you can put her down, you can say, well, she was a sick woman. Sure, she was a sick, but remember this, she was a sick human being. Which puts it into a little different context. That I have never known of a bear, for example, collecting the skins of other bears and tacking them around the walls of the cave, merely because there's a certain amount of pleasure out of that. I happen to have spent a little time down in headhunter country, and when you see that many tribes use human heads as decor. In fact, I remember seeing a little kid in the headhunter country that had a dried human foot that was hanging around his neck as part of his necklace. I just thought you ought to know these things. So I'm just asking, what manner of being are we? What manner of creature are we? Now, you can't separate, say, oh, well, those are awful people, and I wouldn't do that. And yet the same kind of person who would never collect that sort of thing will get a fantastic kick out of watching a late horror movie. The fright, this heady feeling of danger is all around. And I've just wondered about these things, just in casual passing. What there is in us that makes us enjoy. And I think that if we were to discover that, what our hunger is for fright, we would discover a great deal about mankind and also understand why we continually have wars. Because this is part of the ultimate fright. We seek this thing out. I think we seek wars out almost the way the individual... See, I think man, in mass, has a mass body. This is a theory that's been given out many times, that we are only partially individual. That we really are parts, tiny parts, each one of us are tiny parts of a giant body that really is in a way an extension of and a deviation from the composite of its parts. And so man as a body, a great body, man seeks thrills as a body that individual man does not seek. And so individual man is constantly confused by the fact that mankind always has wars. Because as an individual, he doesn't seek war. As a body, he does. Now, how about that one? This theory has been put forth. You don't hear this very often, do you? This theory. Where guys keep thinking that man has wars because man is insane, or it's because a few insane people want a war, or because a few nutty political guys want a war, or some big company wants to sell flexible flyers, so they have a war. That's a very easy cop-out. And the illusion always is, the illusion always is that if we can get rid of this group, or we can get rid of that group, or we can get this kind of scene going in this mental hospital, that eventually we will beat the problem of war. Will you? That this giant body here seeks scenes, seeks let's say a bodily or a corporeal kick that the individual doesn't go after. Now let's take on the other hand, is there an individual anywhere that does not seek thrills? I mean, even the most erudite, intellectual peace lover he seeks his thrills. So on one hand, you find a guy in his private life, he will be shooting heroin, which is extremely dangerous. LSD we know is dangerous. Every pharmacologist in the business has been saying that. Not necessarily every psychiatrist, but every pharmacologist has been saying it, and certainly a lot of other people too. So we individually, people, here's the kind of nuttiness. The guy will individually go out and do something like that. He will seek thrills and danger in heroin, and at the same time, he claims that he's against war. He can't understand why mankind goes for war, and I say they're part of the same thing. I say they're part of the same thing. Now, that doesn't mean that they're operative all the time at the same time. And so here there's always that battle. It's always been, that constant struggle against the individual, the individual feeling where a man walks around and he's himself, and he's here, and he's just a person. That constant struggle against that side of man, and the side of man that could be called society or unit or mass man, unit versus mass man, unit meaning individual. And so if you think that struggle is over, it'll never be over. Because I think that quite often the thing that mass man wants to do, is very often diametrically opposed to what unit man wants to do. And yet he's pulled inexorably in both directions always, regardless of his will, that he is pulled in those directions. And so here you take one man in this day of anti-intellectualism, one man will find his vicarious thrills by shooting heroin into himself, and he will live in fantasies that way. And another man will have a book in his hand all the time, living fantasies. And so they're both fantasies, though. They're both vicarious living. And so a man who shoots heroin into his veins, and that removes him from the world around him and puts him into a state of hallucination, often a state of dreamy exhilaration. He will find he's finding escape, really, in that form. All right, what's the difference between that than, say, an intellectual, a man who would never take dope or drug, sitting in a movie having a vicarious love affair with Jean Moreau? And he will also have a drowsy state of unreality. Have you ever noticed that when you come out of a theater, that quite often it takes you a good 15 or 20 minutes to adjust yourself to the reality? You feel out of it for a while. You sort of have to shake your head, and you feel, gee, and the light hits you and strikes you hard. Well, this is an extension, really. Let's put it this way. It's not really an extension. It's a very minor form of the same thing that happens to a drug addict when he comes out of his haze, and he finds himself in reality. The light hurts his eyes. He walks around, and everything looks kind of harsh, and noises are very loud, and people seem to bump into him, and it's an unpleasant, rough, harsh feeling. Well, we all feel that when we come out of a movie for a few moments. We feel that. It is a pleasant sensation to let go. Now, people let go in their own way. Some let go by sliding off into drugs. Others let go by continually sliding off into somebody else's imagined life, like, say, James Bond. They're letting go of themselves, and it's a pleasant feeling. And it's some, though, however, are unfortunately not capable of letting go intellectually. Some people can't get involved in reading. Some people can't get involved in their mind is not capable of dealing with abstractions for one reason or other. It doesn't mean that they're not intelligent, but they have to do it chemically. This is an interesting problem. And by the way, they're both habit forming in their own nutty way. Some people cannot stand life unless they've got a book in their hand. This is a habit. It's a kind of hang-up. Some people can't stand being in the house without turning on the television and watching something. It's a habit. They get itchy and jumpy. They walk around in little circles. And, they show all the signs of the same kind of problem that say, they're beginning to make an interesting differentiation that has not yet been brought too broadly to the public between drug addiction and drug dependency. These are two different things, and in many ways, the drug dependency can be far subtler and far more dangerous than the addiction. One is merely a physical condition, and physical conditions quite often can be cured. A physical condition is where a man takes a certain kind of drug, let's say heroin, and his body physically and chemically begins to demand this substance to operate and to function normally. It's a physical dependency, or rather a physical, not even dependency, it's a physical necessity that quite often a body will not even operate without this stuff. This is a fact. And it can be cured, though. It's not easy, but it can be cured since it is a chemical problem, and there's a lot of experimentation going into this. However, the new kind of addiction, many people say marijuana is not addictive. That's true, but it causes a dependency, which can be even sneakier. Many a man today goes home and he gets high on pot night after night after night, and he can't split it. He can't leave it alone. And if you were to say to him, well, can you stop? He said, yeah, I can stop it, but he says, I choose not to. That's quite true. He's dependent on it now. And it helps him drift off into that dreamy state of unreality. It helps him escape the conditions under which he lives. Now, unfortunately, a dependency like that quite often leads to a desire for more, let's put it this way, stronger meat. Stronger meat. And who knows which way it'll go. Just like a movie addict, his addiction to movies demands stronger and stronger movies. And if you've noticed that the addiction is such today that we are piling one fantastic thrill in the movie upon the other, until eventually the total absurdity is reached, say, in something like Thunderball, where there's no plot at all, just a lot of series of blowing up, stabbings, killings, rapes, you name it, just one after the other goes on and on and on and on. In short, the addict has demanded much stronger meat, and he will demand even stronger than that. Aldous Huxley talked about this, and he dealt with his feelies. He says that eventually we will have such strong meat. I don't know. I'm not trying. I'm just sitting here ruminating, and I'm not doing it as an expert. I'm doing it as a human being who is also a human being and is just walking around. It's something that we can't really answer because we're close to it. Close to it. We're it. You can be no closer than to be it itself. I suppose if the squirrels were somehow to develop scientific observational techniques, they could find out what's wrong with us or what we are. Now, I'm not even using the word wrong. By the way, have you noticed never once in any of this discussion have I given a moral slant to this? Because I think it is us that it's not good or bad. Is gravity moral? Is gravity evil? Is up good and down bad? Is light in the sky good and darkness bad? No. We say it's bad, so that makes it bad. Does a bat think darkness is bad? It thinks light is bad. Does a fish think water is bad? It thinks air is bad. And so it's a fact of nature. We're talking about reality here. And I think we're a real creature. And one of the real things that we have a hunger for, and no one's explained it yet, is fright, danger, and hence drugs, hence James Bond, hence war, and hence who knows what, ultimately. We're an interesting creature. But then again, I don't think there is any creature that isn't. We're probably more interesting to us because we're us. And I'm sure that bears are more interested in bears than they are in the, let's say, third grade reading pupils. So, you know, it all depends where you're sitting. It certainly does. Oh, one thing, keep your knees loose at tonight's horror mystery. You're watching yourself, you know, when you see that monster.